You're listening to the Deep Gripping Reality Podcast, the show that gives you leadership lessons and insights from the cutting edge of digital marketing. Hosted by Stephen J. Adelman. It's about to get deep.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the 411 on all things Clubhouse. Now, if you're not familiar with Clubhouse, it's kind of a big deal. And by kind of a big deal, I mean it's a huge deal. Clubhouse is the drop-in audio chat app that you may or may not have heard of. And if I'm looking away a lot, it's because I have 4 pages of notes from some insider sources that it's pretty cool. So I think you guys will get a kick out of it. And this is exclusive. This is just for you. Now, if you haven't heard about it, it's kind of surprising that you haven't, because this has been featured in New York Times, in Forbes, in TechCrunch, in CNBC, in Wired, and in quite a few more. And so what Clubhouse is it's a new type of quote-unquote social product that focuses on voice. And basically, it's a platform that allows people to tell stories, ask questions, do Q&A, debate, learn, and just forward the conversation. You can think of it as kind of like a chat room, a TED Talk, a podcast, and an exclusive Q&A if they were all thrown into a blender. And this is what would come out. Now, the reason that there's a big draw to it is the exclusivity. You see, in order to get into Clubhouse, you have to be invited by a current member. The reason for that is that it's in beta testing. It's a private beta, it's invite only, and it's on iOS. You can download the app and basically be put on a waiting list and secure your username if you have iOS, but you can't really join. It's basically like a wait list. Again, the only way to get in is to get invited. Well, the other way to get in is if you already have the app downloaded or the waiting list downloaded, whatever, and somebody in your contacts list on your Apple phone is a member, then they can invite you. So that's another way you can get in. And the reason that, so I'm going to start with the really good news. The really good news is it is coming to iOS, or it is coming to Android eventually, 1. And 2, and this is kind of huge, it's not meant to be permanently exclusive. Now, I understand that the big draw right now is the exclusivity for those who are not in it. But the draw for those who are in it is the experience of being in it. The experience of seeing what it's all about and of actually engaging with people. And so they're building it for everybody, but they really just want to get it right, is what it comes down to. They wanted to keep it secret. That didn't work out well, especially when celebrities found out about it. So like Oprah is a user of it. There's a lot of celebrities who actively use Clubhouse and are in Clubhouse. So you can imagine people want the opportunity to engage with these people. Now, who built this? It's a company called Alpha Exploration Company. They're doing business as Clubhouse. And the creators, it was created by 2 guys that were engineers from Stanford. And one of them built early products for Google, while the other one built early products for Pinterest. And because of their connections and because of the popularity of the beta test of this app, it's extremely well funded by VCs, by top tier venture capitalists and angel investors in Silicon Valley. It's a big deal. So how it works, here's basically how it works. When you open the app, the first thing that you're going to see is a bunch of rooms, and they're all full of people talking, and they're all open to allow any user to jump in and out at will. It's a come and go as you please type of thing. There's no shaming for leaving. There's no pressure at all. So it's a very positive experience, and that's by design. So essentially anybody can start a room, or when you go into a room, you can quote raise your hand. You basically click a little thing on the right that says raise your hand, and that's talking to that's asking the moderator of the room if you can have a speaker role and quote take the stage. That's what they call it. All rooms have moderators, and that's the person who started the room. I'll get more onto that in just a sec. And the cool thing about it, and what really sets it aside and makes it a unique social platform, is that it's voice only. There's no text, there's no images, like picture sharing or any of that. There's no, status updates or story, anything like that. It's all voice. And the idea behind it is it's all voice because your voice matters. So if there's no camera, there's no pressure. You don't have to worry about what you look like. You don't have to worry if you're in your sweats or if you're jogging or exercising or if you're doing laundry or you're just passively listening like it's a podcast. There's no pressure. And so by having voice only and not forcing people to engage, they encourage passive engagement, passively being involved. So it encourages a dialogue that's genuine. And that's a huge thing. So what kind of things are people talking about? Well, there's been book clubs in there. They've had full-on chat parties. They've had interviews, like one-on-one interviews. They've had, fireside chat style things. They've had Q&A with big experts. So it's kind of whatever you can imagine a conversation being. A few of the rooms are like one-on-one, but some of them are like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 people talking, a whole room full of people talking. And so it's an engaged community with a lot of conversations happening at once that you can jump around on. Now, like I said, it's not going to be exclusive forever. It's being built for everybody. They're just kind of taking their time. They really want to get it right. That's very, very important to them. So you can think of it as like scaling a business very, very slowly. There's a lot of businesses that are like, why don't you franchise? And the owner's like, because I want to get it right and because I don't want to franchise. A great example of that is Zombie Burger in Des Moines, Iowa. Now they have a couple locations, but originally the owner didn't want to. The founder didn't want to have separate locations because they like the exclusivity of the East Village. Now it's a little bit more expanded, but it's good stuff. So I will tell you that it's a super small team. That's the other reason they don't want to make it open yet, is that they don't have the staff to support it. It's literally 2 guys named Paul and Rowan who started this thing. And yes, they're hiring, which is kind of cool. So if you have any kind of a tech background or whatever, then you might be able to get a job with this new up-and-coming platform. But right now, they just don't have the people to scale yet, even though they have tons of money. I mean, I'm talking huge venture capital funding. They just are not ready to scale yet, and that's perfectly fine. No worries there, right? You can find them on Twitter at Join Clubhouse, and so that's up with that. And so it's very, very cool. It's a great program. It sounds like something that's going to be super exciting. For those of you who may not have caught this live, I am going to be posting it to my Instagram story and hopefully being able to figure out a way to extract the audio to use it in the podcast. But really, this is an app that's all about connecting people. It's about building community, building relationships, and more. Most people who use it, especially on Twitter, report a very positive experience, an improved overall mental state, genuine connections. And that's so rare. And that's the thing. The reason people do podcasts, the reason that people connect with people on social media is because we need human engagement. And in a world where COVID is, driving separation of people are desperate to connect. And that's a huge deal. So when you have an app that says, listen, your voice matters, it needs to be heard, we want to hear it, and we want you to be able to share it without worrying about pressure, without worrying about being forced to connect with people in ways that you're not comfortable with, that's an insanely attractive thing. And that's why the growth has been huge. And that's why this is a community that will be open to the public soon. So there are some guidelines to Clubhouse. First off, you have to be yourself. Authenticity is key. They really, and these are top level guidelines. They're not like requirements. There are rules, and I'll get to those in a second. But the guidelines are: be yourself, be respectful at all times to everyone, be inclusive, be understanding and empathetic, and foster genuine connections. And Clubhouse is all about doing just that. I can't push that enough. That's what this app is built for, is for people to connect. So and it's built with listeners, moderators, that sort of thing. In fact, that's a good segue to the next part here. I'm on page 3 of 4 notes. So the third thing here is there are 3 roles. There's a moderator, a speaker, and a listener. So each room has a moderator. It's the person who created the room, and they can add speakers, they can mute people. They basically control the flow of the conversation and the tone of the room overall. They can also kick abusive people, and they kind of have a responsibility to do that. So if there's somebody who is being aggressive, assertive, bullying, whatever, yes, you can mute somebody, but you can straight out kick them too. And that's encouraged. And you can also report it to you can report abusive behavior, and that's encouraged as well. So there's actually 5 best practices if you find yourself as a moderator of a Clubhouse room. The 5 best practices: 1, curate the speaker group. You really want to invite speakers that captivate people. You want to invite speakers that have a good voice, who have a good story to tell, and who are really going to engage people. So also you want to, the second best practice is diversify your speakers. It's okay to have opposing viewpoints. In fact, respectful debate is highly encouraged in Clubhouse, which we live in a society that if 2 people disagree on anything, especially politics, game over, right? Complete game over. So that's not necessarily the case in Clubhouse. The culture and the community of Clubhouse is one that allows for that. So the reason for that is, number 3 for best practices for moderator is you need to actively manage the conversation and encourage all voices to be heard. Now, if you invite somebody as a speaker and they don't necessarily want to do that, no big deal. That's not a huge thing. They don't have to. And that's, again, there's very low pressure in Clubhouse. And so number 4, the number 4 best practice tip is to consider the audience experience. You want to pay attention to those people that are raising their hand because they do want to speak. They want to be involved in the conversation, and you'll get a lot of requests for that. So sometimes you have to be a little choosy. And so that takes me to the speaker role. A speaker is those with the ability to speak in Clubhouse. By default, the person who starts the room, the moderator, and the first person to join, those are the only 2 speakers. But it's very seldom that it stays that way. The best rooms actually have many, many, many speakers, and the speakers change, and some come and go as they please. It's an engaged, living conversation, which is really cool. So the 3 best practices that I have for the speaker is 1, share the stage. Most conversations aren't one-to-one. The best ones are many people taking turns, so respect other people's opinions and give them a chance to speak. Number 2 is, much like a conference call, which we've all gotten used to Zoom calls, and if not, you will, don't be cute, use your mute. If you're not speaking, mute yourself. That helps with background noise that can be distracting, and it also allows you to be heard better. So make sure that you take your time to listen to other people actively. Number 3, leave when you want. It's a judgment-free zone. If you want, there's 2 different buttons you can hit when you're speaking. 3 of them. You can either mute, or you can return to the audience as a listener, or you can leave quietly. There's literally a leave quietly button that you can click. So if you're done speaking, be done speaking. It's no big deal. Now, the third role in Clubhouse is the listener. That's what you are by default when you join an active room. So if there's more than 2 people in a room and you go in, you're a listener. If you want to speak, you can. You just have to hit a button that says raise your hand. But otherwise, it's pretty easy. So the 6 best practices, yes, there's 6 best practices of listeners. 1, no pressure. Don't speak if you don't want to, even if you're invited. So if you don't feel like speaking, feel free to decline an invite to speak. Number 2, raise your hand if you have something to say. Don't be offended if you're not selected, because sometimes if it's a big room, the moderator may have a lot, or even an active speaker may have a lot of people raising their hand and wanting to speak. So if it's not that you're being ignored, it may be that you're not even seen yet. Number 3, explore the room. Tap other users, learn a little bit about them, get engaged, and start conversations. In fact, if you see, number 4 is browse other rooms while you're listening. So combination of 3 and 4 here. If you see somebody you know, invite them to a separate chat and start a separate room. You can totally do that. 5, be a passive listener. Only jump in if you want to and when you want to. There is no pressure, so if you don't feel like jumping into the conversation, don't. You're not going to be shamed for it. And number 6, come and go as you please. In fact, it actually said in this document that I found, ghosting is welcome on Clubhouse. So if you want to do laundry, or if you want to do, have your earbuds in and you're listening to conversations while you're grocery shopping, or, whatever it is that you're doing, if you want to treat it like it's a podcast, you totally can, and that's awesome. So feel free to do that. So there are 4 rules. 1, the real name is required. 2, Well, there's a lot of rules, but these are the 4 big ones. 2, you got to be 18 or older to join and use Clubhouse. 3, no abuse or bullying. It's just not tolerated. You can be kicked out of the room, and even worse, you can get kicked off the app. And 4, no recording, transcribing, or sharing info from Clubhouse without prior permission. That's right. So if whatever happens in Clubhouse essentially stays in Clubhouse. You're not allowed to share content from Clubhouse to other platforms without express permission. So that makes it very, very interesting. Clubhouse is an app to watch. If you don't have an invite yet, you can get one if you have a friend who has iOS and has one. If you have iOS, if you have Android, no big deal. So it's been my pleasure to do this. I did a lot of research on it just for you guys because I know that there's a lot of people who are interested in it and want to know how helpful it is. So let's talk real world application, okay? If you have expertise, it's a great way to share that expertise. It's a great way to do Q&A. It's a great way for crowdsourcing. If you want to find out what your audience is interested in, take notes, ask questions, write stuff down. This is a place to learn. It's a place to share. It's a place to grow. It's a place to engage and even invite people. Like I said, you can't record conversations from Clubhouse, from the app, but if you find somebody who's, say you do a podcast and you find somebody who you think would be a great guest, invite them to do it and then do it out of Clubhouse. And last but not least, again, it's not open yet, but it's being designed to be open. They want everybody involved. They want to positively push connections and communication. So if you feel like it's something that you want to know more about, when it comes to the platform of your choice or becomes open, by all means, jump in and get in there. The other thing I'll tell you is that another big thing you're going to want to take advantage of is YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts is beta testing in India right now. It is open beta testing, but only in India. It's basically Instagram Reels and TikTok, but on YouTube. Now, Google owns YouTube, and I know because of something they've done very recently, the Google algorithm is starting to include actual links to the mobile website of Reels posts, videos, and TikTok videos. So short form video content is being included in search results now when you search for things. It's for a lot of people. It's not completely rolled out yet, but for a lot of people, when you search on the Google app. So just so you know, short form content is a big deal. Audio is a big deal, and it's going to continue to be. So this is a great opportunity. For those who tuned in and listened to this live, thank you very much. For those of you who didn't, no big deal. I hope you catch it later. And in the meantime, thank you very much for your support, for listening. And until next time, dig deep, my friends. Take care. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to it. And hey, you know what? I look forward to seeing you in Clubhouse.